Welcome to this presentation of Unified Monitoring. My name is Ola Sandström and I'm working as a pre-sale engineer and technical product specialist here at OP5. In this presentation we will start off by looking at the definition of Unified Monitoring. We will after that take a look at a typical case where Unified Monitoring is not used. We move on and take a look at how we at OP5 do and what protocols we use to get a unified monitoring solution. We will also take a look at the key benefits of having a unified monitoring solution, and finally I will show you some of our customers. To be able to succeed with unified monitoring, we at OP5 must be open and follow the open standards, meaning that we use open source software but also contributes back to the open source community. We have to be highly scalable. To be able to monitor closed environments like a DM said, we have the possibility to place a so-called poller in that network, and by doing so removing any isolated islands in your network monitoring. We can also scale our monitoring horizontal by adding redundancy and load balancing for larger environments. I will now show you a more or less typical example of how situation is for a lot of administrators out there. When you arrive in the morning, you have a series of tests to do to verify that your environment is working as planned. Perhaps you have some Dell servers, so you start up by opening Dell Open Manage to verify that all servers are working as intended. If there is any problem, this has to be logged as a case in the help desk system. After that, there's a couple of hundred HP servers that has to be verified as well. Same procedure this time. Go through the list, verify every server, and if there's any problem, this has to be logged manually. Now we have perhaps spent 30 to 60 minutes already, but the checklist is far from complete. Now it's time to take a look at our Windows servers. Check the event logs, check disk space, and check that all the important services is still running on your Windows servers. When that is done, it's time to verify the WAN connections. We need to know if the backups is using up too much bandwidth during the night. We also need a third-party software to check our SQL servers. And finally, we have to check our VMware cluster. Here we have to go through the logs, check that everything is green and healthy. This whole procedure is very time consuming, and we all know the cliché, time is money. During the hour or hour and a half it took to complete this checklist, you could have spent your time fixing any problems you found instead of going through a boring checklist. Wouldn't it be nice to just have one system to log on to and get all the information you need from just one place in just a couple of seconds? Well, you can. So let's take a look at how we at OP5 can solve this time-consuming problem. Well, I hope your environment is not this complex. But let's say that we have a bunch of different hardware, software and cloud services that we need to monitor. To be able to get a unified monitoring, we need to monitor all the layers of your IT infrastructures, all the way down from UPSs, server hardware, network hardware, storage solutions, virtualization platforms, operating systems, and up to software, network services and applications. But also important to get temperature, humidity and door sensors hooked into your monitoring system. What we have put down a lot of time in is making it easy for you to get the whole picture. In OP5 Monitor you will get a tactical overview in which you easily can see if there's any problems. We also have auto-generated network maps, views that you can design to your likings, that also can be presented on a large screen or on the internet. Our latest contribution is our business process view, in which rules can be created so clustered solutions can be monitored correctly. But I will get back to this in a couple of minutes. But how can we talk to all these different components? We have to use a lot of different protocols for this to work. We have agents for most operating systems, and of course we also use SNMP to communicate with switches, routers and a lot of other network connected equipment. If it isn't possible to use agents, on Windows servers, we also have the ability to use VMI as an agentless option. For web pages and perhaps some equipment that does not support SNMP but has a web interface, we can use Web Inject to get the information we need and ensure that web pages are working as intended. ICMP and TCP, of course, for ping and port checking. If we need to do some more complex testing on servers, we can use NRPE to execute local scripts on both Windows and Linux servers. These scripts can do tests locally on the server and simply send the result back to OP5 Monitor. To verify that our SQL servers are working, we can do database queries. And finally, but not least, we can use API to check VMware servers and Citrix CN servers, for example. Here we have a more or less typical scenario of a normal sized company. You have a couple of Cisco routers and Juniper switches. There's also Dell servers, storage, SQL databases, VMware cluster, and a mixture of operating system and some cloud services that you need to monitor. All of this have their way of communicating. Here we use SNMP to monitor the network equipment. We can use VMI for SQL servers. SNMP traps can be used to monitor storage, and we use agents to monitor our operating systems and some applications. As you can see, we can talk directly with VMware API without installing any third-party software or modifying the VMware installation. Now we have all of our most important systems monitored, so it's time to present the information. One of our more advanced tools is our business process module, in which you can set rules on how your IT infrastructure should be interpreted. This module was introduced in version 5.6, so if you haven't upgraded yet, please do. It can be used to set up rules for a service that you deliver, either internally or externally. For example, you might have a clustered application server in which you still deliver the service even if one or two servers goes offline. This will affect your SLA reporting dramatically. Now you can show the real uptime for a delivered service instead of if the server was up or down. Another tool that we use is Nagvis, in which you can design the layout of the information to your likings. Here we have an example of services that the IT department delivers to the organization. As you can see, you quickly get an overview of your IT infrastructure. It is easy to read and understand that our database is in maintenance mode and there are some problems with our virtual environment, but all our important servers are still running. Views like this can be presented on a big screen in your IT department or somewhere else in your organization. It's also possible to publish this information on your intranet using iframes. If you want more examples of these views, you can go to our demo site at demo.op5.com. One thing that I think is important is that after you have got all your system into OP5 Monitor, instead of throwing all the old systems out of the window, you can use them to do some integration into OP5 Monitor. For example, the HP System Management homepage is really good. There you will find information on exactly what is wrong with your server and what part number the replacement part has. My recommendation is that you use extra service URLs to create a link from your server hardware check into the System Management homepage, so you easily can access the information you need. In other cases, it might also be possible to fetch data from another tool using web checks or database queries. Other systems might have the ability to send SNMP traps, which we can receive. As I said earlier, we mainly use open source software, and this ensures our flexibility. The core in OP5 Monitor is Nagios, which has the largest network monitoring community. With Nagios as a core, we can use this community, which has a huge library of plugins both for hardware and application monitoring. It is very likely that someone else has tried to monitor really odd hardware before, and you can use his or her research. We also contribute back to the open source community, both in Nagios core and with plugins, and we are a huge part of the Nagios community. With this, we get an adaptive design that we can use to develop customer-specific functionality and customizations. So, it's time to summarize this webinar. The key benefits with OP5 Monitor and our unified monitoring solution is that you get a vendor-independent technology, transparent monitoring solution. You get the possibility to easily visualize your entire enterprise IT infrastructure. You get one interface instead of spending a huge time looking at several tools to get the whole picture. With this, you also get increased productivity and responsiveness when you spend less time analyzing data from all the monitoring tools. The isolated islands in your network will get the same monitoring level as the rest of your network. And finally, you get good looking reports from your entire IT infrastructure, so you don't have to collect them manually and summarize them in some spreadsheet. Finally, I want to show you some of our customers. If you want to get more information about our products, go to op5.com, or if you're curious about our community work, you will find this at op5.org. Thank you for taking your time to listen to this presentation. Live long and prosper.